Na bhumirapo na cha vahmirasti, na chanilo mesti na chambharam cha. Evam viditva paramatmarupam guhashayam nishkalamadvitiyam samasta sakshim sadasadvihinam prayati shuddham paramatmarupam. Na bhumirapo na cha vahmirasti, na chanilo mesti na chambharam cha. Evam viditva paramatmarupam guhashayam nishkalamadvitiyam samasta sakshim sadasadvihinam prayati shuddham paramatmarupam. Na bhumi, na apaha, na vahni, na anilaha, na ambaram. All the panchabhutas, no earth, no water, no fire, no air, no space are for me. Pardon me. So in one statement, he is dismissing all the panchabhutas. No space, air, fire, water, earth are for me. Check these verses, Kama. Thus, knowing the nature of the Supreme Self, Paramatma Rupam, Viditva, having known what? Paramatma, the Rupam, the nature of the Supreme Self. Where is that Self? Guhashayam, abiding in the cave. Nishkalam, without parts. Advitiyam, non-dual. Samasta saksham, witness of all. Sadasadvihinam, beyond existence and non-existence. Prayati, Paramatma Rupam. Again, he used the word Paramatma Rupam. Prayati, one attains the pure nature of the Supreme Self. Paramatma Rupam. Yes, Hariji, something to ask from the previous mantra?
No, that was by mistake I raised the hand. Not really.
You must correct your mistake, no?
Yeah. By the time
continuing to bless us.
No, by the time it got disconnected from my side. So I was trying to get in. I tried to.
I am trying to connect you. You're trying to get disconnected. What is going on?
No, it was by mistake.
No problem, sir. That's understandable.
Thank you.
So this mantra again gives us pointers through which you can assert the self and negate the non-self. Again, I said everything, there are two interpretations here. Interpretations two, asserting the self and negating the non-self. The first standpoint is the highest standpoint. The highest standpoint is everything is non-self. Everything is non-self because the entire world, the highest truths we have been given by these masters is Brahma, Satyam, Jagat, Mithya. The entire world is an illusion. If that is truth, if there's any truth in it, if it's an ounce of truth in that the entire world is Mithya, then the entire world is non-self. Am I right? The first interpretation. What are we understanding? The mantra is giving us pointers through which you can assert the self by negating the non-self. Everything is mithya, so the entire world has to be negated. That's the highest standpoint. None of us are there at a point where we can negate the entire world. Give up your arrogance that you have reached that state. You still have certain elements of a black market value for the world. How can I be detached to my children? Tell me, how can I be detached to my family? How can I be detached to my work? How can I be detached to myself? It's not possible, no? Mhm. Black market value to yourself and your family and your creation of the world that you have created. I created this out of nothing. Nothing existed. 30, 40 years back, nothing existed. I've made a fortune. I've made an industry. I've created this. How can I be detached to my creation? So you cannot reject the entire world as mithya, as maya. It is reality to you. So forget that. One day you and I will reach there. The second interpretation is negating the non-self. Now, what is negating the non-self? Anything that does not remind you of the self is the non-self. Okay, you go about in the world, you can't dismiss the entire world. Can you? I understand, sir, I cannot. Then what do I do? Okay, start with that which doesn't remind you of the self. You negate that. Oh, partying and clubbing. Obviously, I used to do it, but now I feel a little reluctant in doing it. I'm not talking of myself, just an example. I don't feel comfortable doing that. I feel it's a complete colossal waste of time. So what should I do? I should negate it. I should slowly disassociate with it. I should keep distance from it. I will have nothing to do with it. Why are you doing it? Harish, why are you distancing yourself from certain things in the world?
Hariam Guruji, we are distancing it because we are working towards negating the non-self, Guruji.
What is the second interpretation?
The second interpretation is negating the non-self. Anything that doesn't remind you of the self is the non-self.
So that you are negating because it does not remind you of the self. You are disassociating because it doesn't take me to myself. Therefore, I say neti. No, thank you. So tomorrow, if your family is an impediment, do you have the strength to say, to this aspect of it, I don't associate? You choose to do it. That's your free will. I don't deny you. You want to live a particular life, you have a license to do, but I will have nothing to do with it. Anything in the world that doesn't remind you of your goal, you should not do it. Having fixed the goal of self-realization, that is understood, that's paramount, that's taken into account. Now, in the mantra, the Guru is negating the Panchabhutas, the space, the air I breathe, the space I live in, the earth I live in, the water I drink, the food I eat, everything is being negated. I have got nothing to do with this. Why is he saying this? Reddy Garu, why is he saying this? The answer I've already given you, sir.
Yeah, he's saying negate the Panchabhutas because you need to go travel towards the inner self.
Can you negate the Panchabhutas?
No.
But here he's negating the Panchabhutas. What does it mean?
No.
Sir, what are the two interpretations we have given to negating the non-self and asserting the self? Can you state what the two interpretations we gave, sir?
Yeah, negating non-self, accepting the self. And second thing is anything does not remain self, negate that.
No. The first is, what is the first interpretation? Anything.
Doesn't remind.
No. Everything in the world is mithya, maya. What is mithya or maya? It means an illusion.
Illusion.
If the entire world is an illusion, it doesn't remind me of the goal of self-realization. So illusion is a trap, sir.
Yes.
So when you are in the desert, you're thirsty, midday, you're exhausted your water. Everywhere you see water around you. It's an optical illusion. But there is no water there. It is misleading you, it's misguiding you. You run towards it, hoping it's water, until you get there, realize it's only a mirage. So the entire world is illusion. It doesn't remind me of my goal. So the absolute standpoint is negate the entire world. So when the guru here is negating all the Panchabhutas and says, I have got nothing to do with this, he is taking the stance of the first interpretation, which is the world is Maya.
Maya.
We can't take this stance. We have already said that. What stance we are taking? Anything that does not remind me of the self, I will not do.
Yeah, how we, okay, world is Maya is the one which we can get to connect, but how is that by negating the Panchabhutas, we correlate that the world is Maya? If how can we be living in this, negate the Panchabhutas?
Who?
I could not
you and I, sir, I can understand your difficulty to connect because that's an absolute standpoint. That is a stance of a self-realized soul. For him, it is Maya. Sir, it's like us. It's like saying, sir, okay, sir, you are doing great work. You're doing great charity. You're doing phenomenal yeoman service you're doing. Okay.
Yeah.
All that work that you do, I am putting a clause there. All the work that you're doing, example, is you are doing in the dream. You are mobilizing resources. It's become your life mission to serve the people tirelessly. 20 hours a day you're slogging. All that you're doing in the dream, does it help you to realize the reality of the waking state?
No.
So with reference to the waker, all the work that you do in the dream, isn't it an illusion?
Illusion. Yes.
That is a standpoint a guru or a self-realized soul is taking to all that you and I are experiencing in the waking state. Just like from a waker's perspective, the entire dream is illusion. From a self-realized soul's perspective, everything in the waking world is just another dream, another dream. The dreamer also is eating. Huh?
That is more for the perspective of self-realized soul. So
what? Yes. So that's the reason I already established the two interpretations. The first interpretation was an absolute standpoint. And I mentioned clearly, we cannot practice it. We cannot dismiss the entire world as illusory. But the guru does, because he's reached that state. Now, you and I, what should we do? We will negate anything doesn't remind you of the goal. So if somebody offers you food and knowing you what you are, Reddy Garu, if you think the food is of a rajasic and tamasic quality, let's say somebody offers you meat, somebody offers you tamasic food, intoxicants, what would you say? Sir, I appreciate your offer, but I don't think I can take this because I'm far from all this. Why would you negate that? Because you know it is not in my interest. It is not in my betterment to eat dead bodies and drink intoxicants. Would you say, thank you very much? No, thank you. Why are you negating it? Because it is not in your interest of self-purification. You're not thinking of self-realization.
Yes.
Maybe you're
Yes.
thinking of self-realization. You may be able to, but in the immediate sense, you say, it is not in my hitam. It is not in my betterment. So you say no to it. But are you able to reject the entire bhutas? No, that's a
No.
high state. But at least at our level, we have a certain awareness where we keep saying no, neti to things that doesn't help you to reach your goal of your own spiritual betterment. Isn't
it's more like, yes, Guruji, I understood that. And it's more like how you can continuously keep improving the purity of your consciousness. Because consciousness is the one which is telling you not to do and
No, not conscious.
Because when we're talking about the tamasic food, to take it, because it started somewhere from there. Because we evolved. I used to take non-veg. Now I moved from non-veg to vegetarian. The shift is the one which is made me to understand from the realization, the knowledge which I've got into. When I doesn't have that understanding, I used to have non-veg. When there was an understanding has been brought into the mind, like then I said no. Is it can be correlate with respect to the consciousness? Is the more we talk about the intellect.
So I wouldn't use the word consciousness. See, the word consciousness means God.
Okay.
You are conscious. I would say you're only conscious. When you say you're conscious, you're aware, and there's also a certain clear part of your conscience. So they're different words.
Yeah.
Conscience, conscious, consciousness. Conscious is when am I conscious of what I'm doing? Like, am I conscious of what I'm talking now?
Okay.
And I'm very comfortable what I'm talking, in the pitch I'm talking, in the tempo I'm maintaining. As I'm talking, there's a certain comfort I feel within. What lends me that comfort? It is a conscience. The same thing if I'm not talking in the right tempo, if I get excited, if I'm getting carried away with emotion, my conscience will not support me. So I'm conscious of what I'm saying is the intellect, is the gross intellect. I'm comforted by what I'm doing. It is the conscience, it is the subtle intellect. That such actions takes me towards the consciousness, which is the goal, the ultimate goal, which is God.
Got it.
Correct, sir?
Thank you.
Perfect. Right, sir. Conscious. So you're consciously negating the non-self, consciously asserting the self. And such conscious actions is the sadhana, which gets well supported by your conscience. And such actions lead you to moksha, to liberation. This is the path to evolution. Now, when the sadhana gets, where do you intensify the sadhana? The intensification of the sadhana is UK. Where is the intensification of the sadhana? Where is your mind?
Guruji. In this only, Guruji, but I was just wondering about the second statement you made. So
That's what I was wondering. What are you wondering about?
I was just trying to understand it and sort of applying it. So there I got
Oh.
stuck.
You
I mean,
already,
just
you already applying
not-
it. My God, you are very
not
high
that
level.
much.
We are just trying to understand the text. You're already applying it. Oh my
No,
God.
Guruji, it's not
We
that.
please don't go so fast ahead of us.
No, not like that, Guruji. Just, I mean,
I get what you're saying. You're able to fathom the concept.
the concept, the first part is like it is clear, Guruji, conscience, but this consciousness, I was wondering how it, is it self-realization or is it reaching?
Yes, consciousness is nothing but self-realization. It is the goal. As I said, God realization or self-realization. So conscious is the path.
Yeah.
Conscience is a sanctioning of the path.
Yes.
As the conscience permits you. Oh yes, you're doing the right thing. Go ahead. So the conscious is the path. Conscience permits you on the path. Consciousness is the destination, the goal.
Okay.
Isn't it? So the question I asked you was, how can I intensify, where can I intensify the sadhana, the path?
By I mean, as much as possible to get out of the worldly things and also to develop detachment as much as possible. I mean,
Is to raise the bar of the
yeah.
non-self. Raise the bar of non-self. We are negating, but we are very much worshipping, indulging, appreciating, wanting, desiring, craving, attached to the non-self.
Yes.
Because it still means something to us. So to say no to it.
And all along we have been doing it very intensely. I mean, we thought that was the life, or that was thing. So we have to make a great effort to
undo it.
Yeah.
You know, it's like dehypnotizing yourself and saying no to it. Not easy, but
It's
at
not
least the
easy.
process has started. So this is the process that we are being told.
And in between, again and again, we are sucked into this. When you're making an effort, you know, somewhere in between, you're sucked back into this, into the world, into your usual, what you were earlier.
See, one gets sucked into it, one will lose track of it if one is not rooted.
Okay.
But one who is rooted, doesn't matter whether you're in yoga or bhoga. Yoga is the spiritual company, bhoga is indulging in the world. For a person who is rooted, it doesn't matter. So, and this applies relative and absolute. If I am rooted 40%, 40% will not uproot me. Whatever I do will not uproot me.
Yes.
It's like when a tree that is rooted to the ground, how strong are the primary and the secondary roots will determine how much strength of the wind it can withhold. Let's say it can withhold a speed of 50 kilometers an hour or 80 kilometers an hour. But let's say the same tree can withstand 250 kilometers an hour or 300 kilometers an hour, a hurricane or a typhoon.
No.
It will uproot it because it is not firmly rooted. But to the 40%, it will not. It may shake, but it's still rooted. It will not rock.
Yes.
Similarly, to the extent one is rooted within, to that extent you can go about doing things freely without losing a focus. That is what he says in the second chapter. He says, how should a man of wisdom conduct himself in the world? Like a tortoise. A tortoise goes about freely, but the moment it suspects danger, it withdraws. But for a man of dispassion, there is no distraction.
Yes. Yes.
So the invitations of the world are only favorable invitations. I never get an invite of people going for bachelor parties. I don't get invite for people going to Macau or what is this? Las Vegas. I've never got an invite. Why have I not got an invite to visit Las Vegas? Harish, have you ever invited me to come to Las Vegas, Harish? No, Harish also has never invited.
No, Guruji.
But many other trips are still pending, Harish.
New Zealand is in the forefront. I know it'll be up your alley.
No, I'm just kidding. So he's talking as a New Zealander. He's a New Zealand citizen, Ayo, isn't it?
Yes, Guru.
So he's inviting me to his home. So that has been there on the cards. But he's never thought of inviting me to Macau.
No.
When you visited Hong Kong, did you take me to the casino there?
No, Guruji.
He didn't take me to the casino there when we visited Hong Kong. Why not? The world will not come and disturb you to the extent you have no vasana for it. So you will be happy to go into the woods, go into the forests, because all rishis always went into the woods and the forests. Setuji, the best place to be is in the forests. It reminds you are very close to nature. You're very close to that solitude. And I felt that same spiritual solitude when I trekked the Annapurna base camp. It's like as if I'm scaling to my goal of realization, even though it was an outward activity. Right throughout that 14 days of trek, you're all by yourself, and all the time you're connected with nature, and it's pure bliss. You're reveling in bliss of isolation. I would rather go and sit in a forest or in a mountain, be myself, than being in the din and roar of the marketplace. So the marketplace doesn't remind me of the self. It is that solitude of the woods that reminds me of myself. No, it's again a perception. It's a perception. So UK, so the goal is to intensify actions which doesn't remind you of the goal, and get on to activities which reminds you of the goal. But again, as I said, you will have to be very careful what you choose to do, what you don't choose to do. I remember many years ago, I don't think the gentleman attends the classes. There is a gentleman called Singham, elderly gentleman, very devoted. He used to be my right hand in Malaysia, literally right hand. Everything he used to do, very, very pure soul. There was one of the, I'm putting more than 10, 15 years ago, this was. We wanted to watch a World Cup final. Some World Cup match was happening in India, some country were playing World Cup. And it was very expensive to subscribe in your own home. It's all subscription, no telecast, there's no demand. So you have to pay a very hefty price. So I did not subscribe, and nor did I watch the other matches. But when I knew the India came to the final, I shared with Singham sir. I said, sir, can we go and watch this match somewhere? And he said, I'll find out, sir. Because he used to be instrumental in organizing cricket matches for Swamiji, and the team used to come from India. We used to organize matches, and we knew the cricket club, and he knew the people. He said, I'll find out where we can. Then he said, sir, there's only one club where we can have access. I think it's Aman Club. Shantima, Aman Club is in near KL Central, isn't it? KLCC, near KLCC, isn't it? That part of the central part of area, it's called Aman Club, if I'm not wrong. Huh? And I remember, not sure?
Not sure.
Okay, next time I come, I'll take you there. Aman Club. It's a cricket club. It's a beautiful cricket ground. And so he said, Guruji, but there's one condition. They allow visitors only to the there's a lounge, there's an area where sports recreation and cafeteria is there. There's only TV there. They allow you only there because we're non-members. So that's fine. And it was happening late in the evening, let's say 8 o'clock till 10 o'clock something, or 7 to 10 something. So we went there and we both were sitting and watching. People were playing billiards, some sports, matches were going on, and drinks were being served to everybody because a club. That's natural. And then since we were there, we had to order something. So our order was Malaysian kacang. Please learn that word kacang means peanut. So we ordered Malaysian kacang and continuous refill of Coke. That fellow, the waiter, was looking at us as if these two fellows have come from a different planet. You fellows come to a club and you order Coke and peanuts. You fellows not worth any nut. You both are nuts, he thought to himself. Yogaratova, Bhogaratova. What I'm trying to say is, when you are rooted, how does it matter where you are? It doesn't impact you, it doesn't touch you. So I did that. I did that once. To that extent, I remember when it was done. If I'm doing every other day this one, then I'll not remember that. So now it doesn't matter. Pass. Yes, Harish?
Guruji, there was a mention before that anything that doesn't remind us of our goal, we should not do it. But Guruji, we have social, family, and work obligations many a times. And some of those obligations, they don't resonate with me, for example, or doesn't serve the goal. How do we distinguish with the obligations out there with work, family, or socially, where if it doesn't remind us of our goal, that we should or should not do the obligations? Where do we draw the lines? This is a very big one.
Obligation, when you use the word obligation, if I understand you correctly, when you say obligation, you're bound to it. It becomes your bounden duty. You can't abandon it. Am I right?
Yes.
When you have to perform your bounden duties towards your family or your work or your social obligations, when you do so like butter paper in water. Be like a butter paper, not like a blotting paper. So you go into that experience, you go in with disinterest, you perform your obligation with disinterest, you come out of it completely disinterested. It's like you leave a butter paper in water for 20 minutes. A good quality butter paper. 20 minutes, you left the paper in the water. When you take it out, what would happen to the paper? Nothing would happen to the paper because it is well protected. So I must say, this doesn't happen that often. But recently, there was a function of Vijaya's friends' anniversary celebration that were happening. And it was on a day that we had actually spent the whole day out. On the day of Vanabhojanam, some of us went that evening. We came back home by 6-ish, 7 o'clock, we came back home. And that evening, Vijaya had a function which she had committed to. And she said she wants to go. And I had to drive her, as you said, obligation. As a husband, I was obliged to drive her there. And I was exactly like butter paper in water. I don't eat for dinner. I went there, I drove her there. I gave all the license to Vijay and said, please spend as much time you think is right to spend time with your friends. And this happens once in even a year. It happens. It's a rarity. And this lady asks me, can you please take me there? I said, yes, I'll take you. I took her there, sat there till 10 o'clock in the evening. And right through, I was just doing my work. I had some work to take out excerpts from the Gita. I was looking at all those 18 chapters and jotting down, because we are trying to suggest Gita for management to an IIM institution. So I was doing my work until I got a nod and a pat on my back and said, I'm ready to go. Oh, so early. Okay. Why I'm saying all this is I can't say you please find your way. I can't say I'll arrange a driver and take you. She would have. She said everybody there are coming with their families. It's an anniversary and you are it'll be good if you're there. I said, okay, I'll be there. I'll do whatever is expected of me to be done. You do it. You go in with no interest. Stayed there with no interest in the happenings. You come out of it completely unscathed, untouched by what happened. So how does that action matter to you? It doesn't matter to you at all. And why did you ask me, sir? Why did you do it? Obligatory duty. Can I escape it? No, you can't escape it. You're bound in duty. The daughter comes and says, Dad, I need you to come to the college for a parent-teachers meeting. Negate non-self. It is illusion. Dismissed. Nay. My daughter will give me a lecture. What are you talking of? Illusion, Maya and all? You better come. I'll be dismissed from the school. That also will be Maya. You have to deal with that also. So you have to play by the rules. Play by what obligation you are. Whatever you have a certain binding, you have no choice but to perform that. But remember, be like butter, paper, and water. That action doesn't exist, even though you are performing it to the full. It doesn't bind you. Throughout the Gita, it says such a person doesn't incur any sin. No sin means no stain, no vasanas, no impressions. So you are clear. And imagine that 100%, a man of realization is doing all what he needs to do. In fact, in the first mantra, Gayatri Ma, just put the first mantra for me, please. Part 2, first mantra. I'm giving you in the context. It will drive home the point. Translation, please. Now, Harish, see here. He says, he who was absorbed the Shatarudriya, which means the 100 names of Lord Shiva, it's just a text, doesn't matter. But he says he becomes purified by fire, purified by drinking intoxicant. Reddy Garu, just now I took an example of drinking intoxicants. He is purified even if he drinks intoxicants. He is purified even if he kills a Brahmana. He is purified even by performing commission and omission. Yeah, Shatarudriya madhite sogni puto bhavati, surapanat puto bhavati, brahmahatya, killing a Brahmana, suratpanah, drinking intoxicant, kritya, commission or omission. None of these actions matter to a man who is established in wisdom. That doesn't mean, thank you, sir, I've got the license now, I will go ahead and do it. Don't do it, please. Reddy Garu, please don't do intoxicants, sir. It is not meant, just because we call you self-realized SR, that doesn't mean you get the license to go and do it.
No, never, Guruji. Not,
SR means Srinivas Reddy, not self-realized. Not yet.
It's so coincidence.
No, it is very much in thought. Whatever
Yes.
I align myself to the context and the class to bring out those words so that it conveys a message. So I knew this was coming. So when I took an example to you, I said in a head so that you can relate to it. Now you see it. Here he says, for a person who's already established in the truth, it doesn't matter you kill a Brahmana. And yet it's a Kathopanishad where Lord Yama, the Lord of Death, falls at the feet of young Nachiketa. Nachiketa was a Brahmana. And a Brahmin boy was waiting outside at the door for 3 days and 3 nights. Lord Yama, the Lord of Death, was terrified because you can't wait a Brahmana wait. And he was not allowed into the house. He didn't want to come into the house. He was left to himself. And he goes and seeks his pardon for making him wait for 3 days and 3 nights and say, I grant you 3 boons. For 3 days you waited. Please ask what you want. That how remorseful Lord Yama, the Lord of Death, was for making a Brahmana, a Brahmin boy, a young Brahmin boy wait. That is how you regard a Brahmana. You wash the feet of a Brahmana. You prostrate a Brahmana, because a Brahmana is one who is endowed with Vidya and Vinaya. Who is a Brahmana? Vidya, Vinaya Sampanne, Brahmane Gavai Hastini. So a Brahmana who is held at such high regard, he says, even a Brahmana you kill, you will not be impure. You are purified. Your actions are purified. This takes some saying to say. If an Upanishad says this, you better instill it, better grab it. For a person who has reached that state, that is what Lord Dattatreya always has 4 dogs following him. Whenever you look at a portrait of Lord Dattatreya, if you don't know who Lord Dattatreya is, if there are 4 dogs, it is Lord Dattatreya. The 4 dogs are following him. The 4 dogs symbolize the 4 Vedas. Now here we are trying to understand and follow the Vedas. But in case of Lord Dattatreya, the Vedas followed him. Which means whatever he did means they are sanctioned by the Vedas. Whatever a man of realization does, it is accepted. Commission, omission, fire, intoxicants, killing a Brahmana, it is just a mention. Even the worst of sins you can do, it's all, you're purified. You are, no effect on you. Yeah, it's like royalties. If the president of a country commits a crime, he is above the law. Even the Supreme Court of the country cannot punish the president because he's above the law of the country. At least during the terms of a president, you can't do anything. After the presidential term, you can file a case against him. But not during the presidential, he's above the law. That is what this means. But until we get there, though this is an absolute standpoint, Harish, but until you get there, you will have to be mindful of what you do and what you don't do. But if you have to do an obligation, you are like, example, butter paper in water. Just remember butter paper in water and go about doing whatever you have to do. Don't become a blotting paper. Don't absorb all that's happening around you. Let it happen. As you're doing it, you say, I have got nothing to do with it. Which I did. I didn't have anything. I was just watching the tamasha. What tamasha going on? 25 years marriage celebration going on. I can't understand the absurdity of mankind. It only reiterated the absurdity of mankind to me. What celebration, what show, what pomp, whom are you inviting, who is interested in that gathering, whom are you impressing? All the wrong activity that draws attention of wrong people, of those who are not interested in a purposeless life. And that's precisely the discussion me and Vijay had. She again went because it was an obligation. She felt obliged. But the discussion was complete meaningless exercise. I'm glad she could relate to it. Total meaningless exercise. But you do it so objectively because you have to do it. So yesterday, I was invited as a guest of honor. I was at an annual day function of quite a famous school in Twin Cities here. And I was in the thick and thin of the happening because The guest of honor for that annual day. So you saw these kids performing and awards and ceremony and all that sound and light and pomp and excitement. 1,000 odd parents were there. It's all a great happening, especially the first time is happening after the COVID. So it's a annual day celebration of the school. And you are a part of it. Why, if anybody sees me there, Guruji, what are you doing in a annual day function with the event started with Kashish? You know this song? You know the first song that they sang there with the kindergarten kids? Very famous song. It's called Waka Waka.
Like the Shakira song, Guruji?
I don't know who sang it. Is it Shakira who sang? I don't know. If it is that lady, then it's Waka Waka, same song.
I think so, Guruji.
So the Waka Waka song and this, I think it was launched when one of the football tournaments, I think 8 to 12 years ago, 10 odd years ago, I think so. And that was a dance that was going on, and all these little tots in their colorful dress were dancing, and you know, it was so much fun. And I was reminded of the days of myself being a parent, taking my little girl to her annual day. I was reminded, old memories flashed back, but then I just should be like butter, paper, and water. You do what role they told you: give garland, give bouquet, give certificate, give certificate, garland them, medal, speak, get out. Red carpet treatment, they received you. Red carpet treatment, they pushed you out. I have got nothing to do with it. But why was it there? I have an obligation. Oh, oh, so nice, so much respect, so much recognition, so much to talk about you. Now I must be looking for such invitations. Nay, Idda, this is how the world comes into you. Watch out. Protect yourself from the happenings of the world. But wherever you have to be there like an actor on the stage. It was a beautiful stage decked up with so much of paraphernalia, so much of excitement. But you are just an actor. Play a role and get out. I got out. I have got nothing to do with the role that happened yesterday night. It is gone. Why should it have mental impressions? It shouldn't have mental impressions. That's how you should. Why am I spending time on this? This is how one should operate on the second interpretation to negation of non-self, assertion of the self. If you have no choice but to be there, be there. But while you are there, be like butter, paper, and water. Nothing will happen. You're safe and pure and immaculate. Okay. Vijay Raghavanji, I thought you will sing the song for us, Kashish. Okay, Vijayji will sing to us.
I don't know the song, Guruji. And these are all too new for me.
I know you are very wise and mature.
All 50s and 60s only is my cup of tea anyway. Guruji, I have a bit of a doubt, serious doubt, in fact. How do I?
You're all playing the fool here.
No. How does one differentiate to oneself the actions we perform because we perceive them to be obligatory duty, or we say that it's an obligatory duty to ourselves, or because we want to do them? For an outsider, he won't know. And it's only known to the person who does that, because the motive is involved only with the person inside him. I mean, others neither know nor do they perhaps care, whatever. How do we do that? It has to be only with the intellect and conscience. Well, how do I define an obligatory duty? Like, for instance, I mean, maybe I'll give a silly example. Somebody falls down on the road, and if he said, I can feel that it's an obligatory duty for me to leave everything and go in hell. At the same time, to some other person, it may not seem that, and neither I became a great person, nor that guy becomes a bad person. How do we differentiate it? I mean, it almost seems to be a scary set of data bank. You need to know what your obligatory duties are. Now, okay, maybe I'm exaggerating.
Sir, I've fallen in love with the terms you use, sir. Can you please pass the data bank to me? I also will use a data bank, sir. Huh?
Yeah.
So it's a very, very interesting question, a very pertinent observation, I would say, because when you say the question you're asking is, how do I decipher? How do I come to know what is my obligation? What are my obligatory duties? To which it is your intellect that decides what is your obligation. And intellect is nothing but the choices you have made in the past. Commitments. I have made a certain choice, I'm committed. Like I made a choice to teach Upanishad classes to you all every Saturdays. I am bound by it. I have no choice thereafter, but to be here and execute my obligation. So it is the intellect that acts on the choices you've made in the past.
So it is not universal and absolute among everybody.
Not at all. Not
Then
at all.
my this thing is clear.
Right. Now, going with example, if I can expand a little further, let's say I'm taking a patient to a hospital. I'm driving, or I'm being driven, a patient is being driven to the hospital. As a co-traveler on roads, I must follow the traffic rules. Am I right? But when you are going to a hospital with a patient who needs urgent attention, you will fearlessly break all the possible rules and laws to reach the hospital. Even if you're on the way, you see somebody has fallen down, you say, I don't have time to go and assist him because I have to rush to a hospital. So the rules you will play by then of breaking the rules, you have well been supported by a conscience. So it is not wrong for you at that moment. So it is the intellect. Sir, we have brought this out in the past, but not that often, but I'm bringing it here. You will very well recall, which we spoke in the corporate workshop we did. An intellect has no meaning if it has no applicability. An intellect, let's say, has values. I have a certain value, but that value has no meaning if I'm not able to apply that value in different contexts, isn't it? Because contexts and situation will determine how I apply the value. And to which we have brought about two terms. One is the sense of value vis-a-vis the sense of proportion. Isn't it? The sense of proportion to the value makes the value relevant. Otherwise, it becomes irrelevant. So the sense of proportion is dosage. Sense of value is right medicine. So the right medicine is it my duty? And if it's my duty, to what extent do I do it? Like every week, if I'm getting an invitation to accompany my family for a family function, every weekend there's some invitation, and every week there's some engagement. I'll have to use my proportion and say, okay, I'll arrange a driver and a car for you. You will be safe. Please go attend the function and come back. Don't disturb me. If it is once in a year, once in 6 months, I'll use the discretion and say, okay, I should be there. I'll be there. You see, sense of proportion vis-a-vis sense of value.
Wouldn't that make it subjective, Guruji?
It is subjective.
It becomes subjective. It could be dangerously going away from what are the ideal. I don't know the exact word. Dharma. It could go.
See, what is right? That? What is right for me is not right for you.
That's right.
Therefore, what is right for you is determined by your conscience. What is right for me is determined by my conscience. So it is, there's a mantra in the 3rd chapter which says, you should know your nitya karma. Nitya karma is regular, routine, obligated duties. Naimitika karma, special obligated duties. There are special duties that come your way. There are nishiddha karma, certain duties you should not perform. So you should know your nitya karma, naimitik karma, nishiddha karma, kamya karma. So these are all the things that the intellect should be very clear what to and what not to. In fact, that is a definition of a sattvic intellect, sir. In the 18th chapter, it's given a sattvic intellect is that what ought to be done, what ought not to be done.
Then it becomes beginning to be less subjective across people.
What do you mean by that?
The intellect is a sattvic intellect. If it becomes a common kind of an intellect, then the variations among people's views and definitions will narrow down. It'll become less.
But well, what you ought to do may not be what I ought to do, isn't it?
It will not go away from the what ought to be done in an absolute sense.
Yes.
There has to be some absolute sense in terms of what is good and what is bad. But then there need not be a hard and fast rule in terms of what are the guidelines are.
So in fact, on the contrary, the Shastras do not give do's and don'ts.
Okay.
They don't give. So there is no yardstick to follow what to and what not to. Since there is no need to follow, they don't have any do's and don'ts. Vedanta does not give do's and don'ts. Other religions give, but Vedanta doesn't. Other religions gives her. Vedanta does not. Islam says you must pray this many times in a day. Vedanta doesn't say so. You should do this, you should not do that. Other religions say. Vedanta doesn't say. Do's and don'ts are not part of Vedantic approach. What it gives you is gives you the license to do with your conscience to decide what is right for you based on your intellect and conviction. If I'm convinced the right thing to do, go ahead and do it.
I was more referring to the values part of it rather than just do's and don'ts as actions. Values, developing values.
Like,
I mean, your intellect presents you with a certain framework, and that has to have the right set of values and right set of principles, right? For life. I mean, I'm talking about day-to-day life. I'm not which govern or which trigger or stop actions by you. I was more, referring to that. That I think is supposed to be, I think, only through exposure and then developing an intellect through, contemplation only it can be done.
yes.
What is good for me cannot be phenomenally bad for somebody else. There are certain only breadth that's available, I suppose, between people.
So what is good for me may not be good for you, all of you put together.
Values,
can there be
Guruji, values, no, Guruji. Basic value systems cannot be so different, isn't it, Guruji?
No, if we are all on the right path. See, the fundamental basic values to a large extent. But even that is very specific. Isn't it specific?
True.
Subjective.
No,
I say,
yeah,
can I say meat eating is not good? No, it's good. Science will say that human body is not designed to
ingest.
Accept meat. It doesn't process. The digestive system, the pancreas, all the system is not designed to process. Vis-a-vis how a carnivore is designed, a human being is not designed to process the meat and flesh. It is applicable because that's how a human being is designed, whether you are an aboriginal or you are a royalty, or whether you are an American or an Indian or a European or a Caucasian, doesn't really matter who you are. Your human structure is exactly the same way. So in that sense, yes, But then after a certain point, I can't follow ape because somebody is doing something. It has to be very innately adaptive to one's own requirement and path and obligation, where you're placed, in which ashrama you're placed. For example, in the last mantra, he talks of the ashrama. The 4 ashramas are, what are the 4 ashramas? The brahmacharya, grihastha, vanaprastha, and sannyasa. So the 4 ashramas, which ashrama you are placed, you'll have to play by the rule of that ashrama. And you have to be true to that ashrama. So again, it's again very, very subjective, individualistic. Right, sir? Right, thank you. Seduji?
Hari Om Guruji.
Hari Om, sir.
No, I just meant this. Although there are do's and don'ts are not there. You have told in the past, sattvic food is conducive for spiritual growth.
Sattvic food, anything, any sattvic activity for that matter, is the roadmap to your own evolution. But the rajasic and tamasic activities are not favorable for your own upliftment. Food just becomes, so sattvic food, again, quantity also becomes important. Oh, sattvic food, oats. I am having sprouts and oats and nuts. 1 kg of sprouts, oats and nuts every day in the morning. That oats and nuts will kill me. Yeah. Remember in the, I think, I don't know which chapter it comes, he says, this knowledge is not designed for those who eat too much or eat too little, who sleep too much or sleep too little. So again, not only the right activity in the right proportion. That's why sense of value and sense of proportion. When the proportion goes wrong, the same activity, which you say sattvic activity, can become poison to you. Oh, sattvic activity, Brahma, I'm doing vicharana, Brahma vicharana. What time? 1 o'clock in the morning. Okay. 1 o'clock in the early morning, what Brahma vicharana? You must sleep. Tamas. Tamas is sleep. You must give yourself that rest. If you are being restless because of doing Brahma vicharana, something wrong with you. Sleep. 9 o'clock. Get up at 4 o'clock and do Brahma vicharana. You can't do it 1 o'clock in the morning. I've got up and do Brahma vicharana. Something psychologically wrong with you. No sane mind will do that. Again, out of proportion. You get it, sir? So the right activity in right proportion. So the sense of value and sense of proportion matters. Okay, sir. Thank you. Raghu Garu, I know you have asked this, you made this survival question, correct, sir? How will I survive if I reject the Panchabhutas? Please don't reject. Please breathe the American air. Please stay on the American soil. Please eat American sattvic food. Please do all what the country where you are in, all the Panchabhutas. Please respect the Panchabhutas of America. We are not saying reject any of them. Okay, Raghu Garu?
Yeah, Guru. Yeah, I got it.
No, you will reject. I'll be in trouble because you will say I am following everything because Guruji said so, and you leave a note and come and they'll search for me. Who is this Guruji? That fellow was advising all these things, rejecting Panchabhutas. Please breathe the oxygen, air, breathe it fully. Do pranayama also a little more. So, as I've said, that standpoint is to a man of realization who has transcended all terrestrial limitations. Having reached the transcendental state, he is rejecting the entire terrestrial world and say, I've got nothing to do with it. Just like when a dreamer, when you from the dream wake up from the dream, let's say you have had a horrified experience in the dream. When you wake up from the dream, as a waker, don't you reject the dream as just a passing dream? As a mere imaginary experience? You dismiss it. You don't dismiss it in the dream. You dismiss it upon waking up. Exactly the same way, this master, having realized he is negating everything. So that is the first interpretation. Second interpretation is you filter the aspects which don't remind you of the goal and negate them.
Yeah, Guruji.
So when we talk of food, as we just
Basically,
said, rajasic and tamasic, you have to negate it. Yes, sir. Sorry, go ahead, please.
Yeah, yeah, I was interpreting this Maya thing a little bit. So I think if they say everything is Maya, and instead of thinking everything is Maya, not doing anything, I find it more incentive for me to do more things. If it is really Maya, then I should do more things in Maya
And
rather
get
than
caught up in Maya, sir.
withdrawing myself.
No, when somebody says this is dangerous, don't do. Oh, it's dangerous. I should do it and find out how dangerous it is. Is that what you mean?
Not in exact sense, but it is giving me incentive to experiment more. Like
Correct. This is how a mind behaves. You know, in the why we say do's and don'ts are not designed for human beings, because the moment you tell a child don't do it, the child will say, "Why is my father saying not to do it? I will do it and say what is there in it." I can see the childishness in you, or it's not the childishness. I can see the innocent child in you. Want to try and see what is there in it when I say don't do it, sir. It is.
yeah, I did
Would
interpret
you?
like if it is Maya, instead of just having one job, I can have multiple jobs, probably have more bank balance. It is all Maya. So at the end, I'm not even worried. If I don't make it, that's fine because it's Maya.
Sir, having no bank balance also is Maya, no?
Yeah. So
So
I'm
how does
taking
it
the other
matter?
end. Like
Yes.
without having a bank balance and saying Maya is one point of treating Maya, and treating Maya the other way is having more bank balance and saying it's still Maya.
Sir, we should not make a joke of this profound thought. Whatever roles you have to play in life, play a role. If you want success and prosperity in life, please, by all means, attain success and prosperity. You want name and fame, please go and acquire as much name and fame. You want to live a glorious life with your family, live 100 years. Shatah samaha, the scripture says. You live 100 years doing what you have to do. But ultimately, you'll remember that all of this is a futile exercise compared to the primary objective of realizing yourself. Because all of this, you may live 100 years, will not give you any contentment or any fulfillment, any satisfaction in life. So therefore, those who have reached that state of realization tell us the futility in these actions. So in and through your pursuit of life, remember, life has a greater purpose. Be with your family, make the millions for yourself, acquire the world as much as you want. Remember, along with it, acquire the inner wealth that is within you. You can be external rich, at the same time, don't be an internal pauper. You can be rich externally and be rich internally. Vedanta is not saying you must be an external pauper to be an internal royalty. No, no. They say you can lead a life of royalty and yet be a rishi, be a Raja Rishi. So it is not contrary to your material pursuits. It is inclusive of your material pursuits. You can discover the wealth of wisdom within you. So it's not exclusive, it's rather inclusive, sir. But to strike that beautiful balance, you must lead a life of austerity. You must lead a life of integrity. You can't reach that state of Raja Rishi by being licentious. You must live, as when Vijayji was saying, you must have certain values to live by. And these textbooks epitomizes those highest values you can live. None greater than this, none greater. All right, so I will, right, sir. We'll leave it at this. We'll come back. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om.